Hey everyone, Kevin here with Victory 4x4. Today I'm going to walk you through an install of our strike rear bumper on this 3rd gen Toyota Tundra. So as you guys are going to see, we already removed the spare tire at this point, and that was mostly for ease of installation to give us a little more room to work, as well as so you guys can see what's going on a little bit better behind here. With that done and out of the way, our next step is to remove our license plate from the factory mounting location here, because we're going to need to work toward getting this plastic center section out of the bumper. So just go ahead and pop that off and set it aside for now. All right, with that out of the way, you're going to need to remove as well as disconnect the power to this trailer plug. So to do that, there's just 2 metal clips here that you're going to need to pinch together. That'll allow it to slide out of the bumper. And then there's just a little thumb tab here on this harness that you need to push down and then pull the 2 apart. Then you can set this aside as well. All right, now working underneath the vehicle, we need to disconnect anything that's going to attach to that center plastic portion. So that's going to be your license plate wires, as well as, if your vehicle is equipped with them, the backup sensors. So go ahead and disconnect those. And then this is also going to be a good time to just run along the back here and disconnect any clips that are holding this wiring harness to the bumper. All right, now at this point, you're just going to have to remove 3 plastic clips. So there's going to be 1 right here in the center, and then down on the bottom side you've got 1 out on each corner, and that'll allow you to get this center portion out of the way. So to get this off, you just need to grab kind of firmly underneath here and lift up. And then you're going to have clips along the bottom side of this holding it in place. So you might need to use a pry tool or a screwdriver to just help you free that up. Now once you get this removed, just be sure to pull these sensors out if your vehicle is equipped with them. In order to do that, you can kind of just push from the back side and work that right out of the hole, and just save those for later so you can reinstall them into our bumper. Now if your truck is equipped with these sensors, your next step is going to be to remove this top corner trim piece. Again, much like the other one, this one's just held in with clips. So a pry tool or a screwdriver and a little bit of force, you can pop that up out of there, and that'll let you access the 2 screws here that you're going to need to remove. Now we can remove our outside corners. If your truck's not equipped with sensors, all you have to do here is take these 4 innermost bolts out on the top and the 2 innermost bolts out on the bottom. If your truck is equipped with sensors like the one we have here, you've got 6 bolts that you can remove at this point up top, and then 4 on the bottom. Now with all these bolts removed, you can pull this corner section off. Just be careful here because your wiring harness is still attached to the back of this. So you just don't want to pull it out too far at this point, but what you can do is, with everything loose, you can remove this inner structure. Now with that out of the way, you can get in here and disconnect your sensor wiring harness and any clips that might hold this harness into the bumper. Now you can just set this aside and repeat the same process on the other side of the vehicle. Now you have a couple options at this point. Our bumper is designed to work perfectly fine with this factory hitch right in place, but we also offer a high clearance hidden hitch option. So what you do there is really going to depend on your use and your function of the vehicle. If you're going to be doing a ton of towing with this vehicle and you want to retain the same drop hitches and everything that you already might have now, then it may be best for you to go with the factory hitch. Now if you're planning to be off-road a lot and your biggest concern is going to be clearance, then you're going to want to check out and probably go with our hidden hitch option that's going to tuck it up nice and tight, hide that hitch receiver behind the license plate, One thing you do need to consider there is that that's going to require you to get a little bit bigger drop hitch. So it's all really up to you and how it's going to work on your vehicle. And just one thing of note, if you're going to be going with our high clearance hitch option, that's just not going to carry a DOT and SAE rating like your factory hitch would from Toyota. Now, if you're going to retain the factory hitch at this point, you have 2 bolts here that you just need to remove, and then this center structure will come down out of the way. However, if you're going with our high clearance hitch option, you don't have to mess with that. That'll just come off with the whole hitch assembly. Next, we can remove these little corner braces on both sides of the vehicle, and that's just going to be a 10mm bolt head, one bottom and one up top. And you can simply discard these because they won't be reused later. Now, whether you're retaining the factory hitch or not, you're going to start back here by removing these 4 bolts. Now, don't be too worried at this point about this falling down or anything, because you do have 2 more farther forward up here holding it in place. And for that, you'll just need a 19mm socket. Now, with those 4 bolts out of the way, you can take our bracket, just like this, with the 4-hole pattern against the hitch, and this 3-slot pattern facing the rear of the vehicle, and put it right up there in place over top of the factory receiver, and then just reinstall that using the factory hardware. Now, in our case, since we're going to be removing this factory receiver hitch, I'm going to pull this back down so that we can get that removed. Now, in order to get this receiver removed, with the help of a friend of course, you'll need to remove this next bolt forward, and then these front ones are actually going to be slotted, so all you need to do there is loosen them, and that'll allow you to swing this receiver hitch down and then lift it off of those slots and move it out of the way. That way you don't have to support the entire weight of this receiver the whole time. And then just lastly, don't forget any of your wiring harness that runs through the receiver hitch, just to get that out of your way as well. Now again, with the help of a friend on the other side, what I'll do here is I'll just loosen this front bolt a little bit and then remove the rear bolt. Be sure at this time to support the weight of the hitch back here, and then you can swing that down and then lift off of those slots and slide that down out of the way. And then once that hitch is removed, you can come back up front and just take those last 2 bolts out, because you won't be needing those anymore. Now, with the hitch out of the way, you can come in on the passenger and driver side and remove these brackets. That's just going to be a 17mm socket. And then just retain this hardware, because you'll need that to bolt our hitch into the frame. Now, using that factory hardware that you saved, go ahead and grab your hitch like this, with the tow hooks down and these brackets facing in, and then up through these holes you can install those factory bolts back into the frame. Go ahead and get all 4 of those in there, and then just kind of snug that up for now, but leave it where you can slide it just a little bit so that you can install these side brackets. Now, with the hitch up in place, you'll take your bumper mounting bracket, and in these top 2 holes, using the factory bolts that you took out earlier, you can go ahead and get those started. And with the bracket hanging there, you'll take 2 of these 1/2-inch bolts with the washers we provide, and those will go through the bottom of this bracket and through the hitch, and then they'll get a flange lock nut on the other side. Now that all of your hardware is loosely installed up here, what we'll do is just center this bracket on its slots front to rear and then snug up these top 2 bolts. Just note that you might have to loosen this up later just to adjust your bumper to the body lines here for the best visual appeal. But for now, tightening those up will give us a good firm platform to hang the bumper on. Now we'll just do the same thing on the other side. Now lastly, before you can get this bracket installed, you'll need to make a cut back here to make enough clearance for our wing support bracket. In order to do that, you'll just take some masking tape, and starting at the top edge of these indentations, you can just carry that line right around the back side of the bumper, and then bring it forward here, and then coming right along the top side of these indentations, you can carry another line up that meets your first piece of tape. Then I'm also going to come in up here and put another small piece in just to kind of soften this corner. Now once you get all the way down to the bottom, at this front corner of this bottom indentation, you can just carry your line straight down, and that's going to give you all the clearance you need for our bracket. Now for this portion, I'm just going to be using a grinder with an abrasive cutoff disc, but you can really use any metal cutting device of your choice for this. Now I'm going to start back here in the corner. This tab doesn't really need to be removed, so I'm just going to make a cut straight up to my tape here, and then start following my cut line all the way around. With your cutoff down and out of the way, now I'll just take a sanding disc and kind of clean up all these edges. Now once you have all these edges cleaned up, you can remove all this tape. And after that, we're going to recommend coming in here with some touch-up paint, either color matched or black, and just painting any exposed metal that you may have through here. Now while we're waiting for our touch-up paint to dry, this is going to be a good time to prep our bumper for installation. So to do that, we need to reinstall things like these sensors, which are just going to snap into their appropriate holes. Our trailer plug, which has a nice location right here that it's going to snap right into. In this case, we're putting in some cube lights on the outside, so this is the best time to access those. And then we're also going to put in our license plate pivot. This one is going to be pretty simple. You just need to take in the side with a screw here, insert that into the bumper, and then using a couple of your 5/16 button heads and serrated nuts on the back side, you can get that going in place here. Now when installing these rear sensors, you may have found when you removed yours that you had this plastic retainer clip, or you may not. In the event that you did, you'll just go ahead and reinsert these through the hole opposite of how you removed them from your factory bumper, and then reinstall the retainer on the back. Now if your clips are damaged in any way, or you're having trouble with yours securing into our bumper, you can find these online, and we'll put the part number on our product page. They can be purchased anywhere and shipped to you, and that way you can get these tight in the bumper. But for ours, with good intact clips, they'll just snap through the hole just like that. Next, you can snap your trailer plug back in place. And this just has a nice cutout here that's going to use the factory clips. And retain that right there in the bumper. Next, since we'll be installing pod lights in this application, this is going to be the best time to insert these from back here and get the nut installed on the bottom. And then you can just kind of line that up with this hole and tighten everything down. Now this bumper is pretty much ready to be installed at this point. However, if you're going to be installing our adventure carriers, this would be a good time to go check out our adventure carrier video, because this would be a really easy time to get these latch brackets installed here and your outside pin tracks installed. Now with the help of a friend, take the supplied 1/2-inch bolts, washers, and serrated flange nuts, and you can lift this up in place and begin installing them into your 6 mounting holes here. Now with your bumper mounting hardware still loose, you can bolt this hitch through the bumper face. In order to do that, we're just going to use a punch to help align those holes. And you can just put that 3/8 bolt, washer, and serrated flange nut in place there. And then do the same thing over on this other hole. Now that you have all your bumper mounting hardware loosely installed, you'll want to be sure to center this on the truck and then level it. Make sure it's, running parallel to the tailgate as well as level front to rear. And then you can go ahead and start tightening all that hardware down. Now all your 1/2-inch hardware under here is just going to use a 3/4 socket. Next, using our 17mm, we can come back and tighten the hitch bolts into the frame. Now with all the bumper hardware tight, you can install your outside wing support brackets just like this. It'll fasten to the bumper support bracket as well as to this outside wing support. And then you just need to make sure here that this channel is facing down. With everything in place like that, you have it in the right orientation. Then you can begin installing all your 3/8 hardware loosely. Now with your 9/16 socket and wrench, you can tighten all these up. Now with all that tight, you can do the same thing on the other side. Now at this point, you can reroute your wiring harness, reconnect your trailer plug, and wire in any lights that you may have installed. Now you can install your license plate frame. This is going to install with this tab facing out toward the rear of the vehicle, and then you're just going to bolt it through these 2 center slots right to the bracket that you installed earlier using your small button head fasteners and serrated flange nuts. Next, you can tighten that down using an Allen wrench. Now, with your supplied license plate light, you'll simply take the wiring and route it back through this hinge cutout. And then using the adhesive backing on this light, you can secure it to the tab here on this license plate frame. And then you'll simply need to take that wiring and tie it right into your factory license plate light harness. And then you can see, once you install your license plate, that'll cover up any exposed hardware as well as your hidden hitch. Okay, now just as a reminder, if you're going to be installing our adventure carriers, go check out that adventure carrier video. We're not installing any yet, so we're going to put these black plastic caps in, both top and bottom of these spindles, to protect them from the elements so that you can install carriers later. So in order to do that, we recommend just putting a small bead of RTV sealant on the outside of the cap. And then simply working it down into this hole. And then you can let any excess RTV, just let that dry, and then it'll be easier to peel off later. Now you can do the same thing on the other side as well as the bottom of this spindle. All right, at this point, you just want to be sure to go back, double check all your hardware, make sure everything's tight, make sure you got all your wires tied up and out of the way, and then you're all set. If you guys have any questions about this bumper or any Victory 4x4 product, feel free to reach out to us, info@victory4x4.com, or give us a phone call, 269-459-8447.